Whether you are in the corporate world, you're working for a company, you are a leader in an organization, or whether you own your own business and you're out there in person, you're on Zoom calls and communication, what is the number one tool that we are using during those interactions and engagements? It's the tool that you were born with. And you might have been born with this tool, but that doesn't mean that you've put in the time and the effort to improve and hone your skill with this specific tool. And that tool is, you probably already guessed it, your voice, the way that you use your voice, the way that you train your voice in order to be perceived in a certain way, in order to convey a specific message. The guest we're speaking to today is going to help you to become an unstoppable communicator when it comes to specifically your voice. And you're going to leave this conversation with specific tips that you can use to immediately improve your communication skills. Our expert's name is Daya Ottley, and we'll be talking to him in just one moment. But if you are a fan of the Be Better broadcast, then you know the fee for watching the show. We don't have ads, we don't have sponsors, because we don't want to interrupt your viewing experience, right? We want you to master that voice, and we're not going to interrupt it with some coupon or ad or anything like that. So when you take away any piece of value from this show, simply share the show with one person who could use it the most. Just share it on your social, share it with word of mouth. That's how we've been able to grow the way that we have, because of you, and I am grateful to you for that. It's how we continue to keep going and bring these awesome guests and my own personal friends like Daya onto the show here. So without further ado, let's talk to Daya Ottley. And for those who don't know Daya is a Trinidad-based voice communication expert whose experience extends far beyond the Caribbean. What began with a 5-year-old boy standing in front of a mirror, wielding his microphone of choice at that time, which was a deodorant bottle, has grown into a successful career in voice communication training, audio production, and voice over acting. A lot of things that have to do with the voice. Today, Daya is the creator and the lead trainer of Vocalize, a developmental voice communication business and a highly interactive program designed to teach individuals to effectively use their voice. And I know he's got a course that's coming out very shortly. And if you're watching this, then there's a giant chance that the course is already out, unless you're watching it live. So Daya, without further ado, it's great to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for that awesome introduction, Brandon. So much energy. You got the gift of the voice already, man. That's great.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. And I remember when Simon Town introduced us, actually, and Simon's been on the show. And I call him the Elon Musk of networking. That's what I call Simon. He'd be like, oh, he'd scoff at the idea. But, when I went to your profile, I loved your vibe. Like, your vibe is awesome. Like, everyone go to Daya's LinkedIn profile. There'll be a link in the description and follow him because his content's great. But just your profile video is amazing. Your little audio verb is amazing. Like, you just got to go check it out, guys. I'm not going to describe it, but I'm just glad that we were able to make this happen, Daya.
Yes, it's been in the making for sure, Brandon, and yeah, definitely. I certainly, like you said, with Simon, the thing that I like is that he knows the right people to connect you with for whatever you need, and that was amazing as well. So certainly, likewise, I like your energy. Definitely, what you're putting out there for people, it's great, Brandon. So I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, right back at you. So let's just jump right into it. Like, what is the power of the voice, especially when we are communicating our ideas, when we're on Zoom, which is a lot of people nowadays? Like, what is the significance of the voice, Daya, in today's world?
That's a really interesting question, and you said it in the opening. That's something I was smiling because I'm saying that you said in the opening that it's the gift that's been given to us as a gift, because the reality is, there are quite a few people who, for whatever reason, unfortunately enough, they're born mute. But for most of us, we're gifted with this tool we call the voice that we take for granted, and so the whole issue of how powerful it is about, how do you own it? Do we just communicate by talking, or are we deliberate and intentional? And my whole thing is focusing on the message, because you know the saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And for many people, and that's the basis of my coaching, and when I meet with clients, they are told by people so many times either they sound aggressive, or they sound laid back, or they don't bring the energy enough, or so many different scenarios. A lot of it is just not being aware, Brandon. And so in today's world, especially through Zoom, you have to crank up and project even more, because over camera and over the microphone there's not the electricity in the room that you can feel. You can walk around the room, you can be very subdued as a personality, but just your presence in a physical room is great. But when you are on a Zoom call, you have to work the dynamics differently. So for that, it's all about intonation, inflection, your message. If you want to encourage people and say good morning, I can't say, hi, good morning, Brandon. It's really good to be here. I'm so excited for this podcast. I'm just thrilled. That's not going to do anything. It's like, Brandon, I am so super excited to be here on the Be Better broadcast. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to connecting with your fans. You understand? So it's all about how it's said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I talk to a lot of different people, and I feel like a lot of people are becoming better at the Zoom game, but it's the same thing. Like, your energy, even if you are somebody who's not an extrovert and you're not going to be explosively putting yourself out there, just at least doing your best to match the energy of the person across the screen from you is so important. If there's someone who's very outgoing, but you're doing the thing that you just presented to us, like, hi, my name is Brandon, and this is what I do professionally, and I motivate people. It's like, are you sure? Like, you're not motivating me right now. Like, exactly. I guess matching the person on the other end is super important, but like what you said, a lot of people aren't even aware that their voice is so important. And I grew up, well, not really grew up with this, but I grew up loving music. But when I was 15, I started to play the guitar, and I started to learn how to sing and play the guitar at the same time. So voice for me has always been something that I was more aware of because I wanted to get better as a singer. But most people aren't out there as singers. Most people aren't out there as performers. Like, what is the most common mistake or thing that you see that's holding people back, Daya, when it comes to a Zoom conversation or an in-person conversation, something that they can immediately tweak to get better results?
Yeah, Brandon, that's fair. Fair is fair and just and not being present. So I would say it's fear of what people will say about you, fear of your own self, but most importantly is the fear of exploring your emotions. There are a lot of people who are not comfortable with going there. Yeah, that's how I'll put it. I don't want to go there. It's based on experience. So you could have a traumatic experience, or you could have a good experience, but you just don't feel comfortable pushing yourself further. And pushing yourself further means you could be over the top, because we just use the example of someone who's subdued, but matching someone as well, being aware, is both sides. You could be like all on top and energetic. So if you have to have a conversation with a staff worker, and you call them into the office and you're over the top boss and you want to talk to them and encourage them, but you say, come sit down, Jimmy, sit down right there. Yeah, let's talk. All right. So you're doing a horrible job. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be able to encourage someone. You have to know then how to tone down. And so the thing is that people are not comfortable in just saying, you know what, I definitely want to be more conscious and more aware. And how do I explore that? You have to really be so conscious of compassion, or if it is you are too soft, you have to be able to confront. And it's all in the tone. It comes from deep down inside here, and that's what I always talk to people about. That's the starting point, Brandon.
It just makes me think, like, when you look at somebody who, let's say somebody goes on a Zoom call and they're very reserved and they're sitting back and they're not really contributing much. When they do, they're very quiet. But then you see that person out with their friends, people who they're not afraid to be themselves around, and their entire modality shifts. Like, they're like an entirely different person. A lot of what you said makes me think about authenticity. and showing up to a Zoom conversation, if it's an executive you're speaking to or a client that you're working with, maybe not showing up as you would when you're at the bar with your friends, but bringing that same level of emotional
Energy.
intelligence at the same time. It's funny
Yeah.
because I asked you what's the number one mistake people are making, and you mentioned an emotion rather than a specific way of talking. Because if you think about what changes the way that we speak, it's the emotions that we're feeling in that
That's
moment.
right.
If you're really
That's right.
excited, it's going to be impossible for you to talk really slowly like this. I'm really excited right now.
Yeah.
But if you're very sad, it's going to be difficult for you to express yourself in the way that it will be necessary to express yourself.
And the thing that you said is something that I focus on a lot, which is, that you use your word emotional intelligence. And that's so true, because you really have to assess where's my emotion and be in touch with it. But the thing is that, like you said, there are points in time, let's say you have a presentation to make and you just got some bad news and you still have to deliver this. So you're sad, but you have to bring joy. And it's the basic thing that actors have to go through. They have to put aside all their emotions. And so sometimes we look at actors and say, wow, they have to go through so much. But we have to become like those actors every single day, because you have to put aside the anger, because this is one day when you have this big presentation to make or host this meeting and everything went wrong. The washer stopped working, whatever happened, the kid got sick. And you don't go and bring that to the audience. You have to bring joy. And so it's really about maturity and being able to put that aside for the moment and bring genuine energy. Brandon, our voice communicates all our emotions when we don't even know it. When we are upset or angry and we share something with someone, could be a loved one, could be someone in the office. If we're not aware and we think we're suppressing it, but people who know you and the people who are interacting with you and even people who don't, they get a vibe through your voice. And so understanding and being aware of this helps us manage it so much more powerfully.
Yeah, and that brings a follow-up question. I remember I got in a Zoom call with this guy recently, actually. It was kind of funny. And when I hop on a Zoom call, like, I'm not like this, I'm not like angry looking at the camera, waiting for you to take your camera and put it on. Like, I have a smile because I want to convey warmth and radiance.
Yeah.
And the guy turns his camera on. He's actually a friend of mine now, so it's funny. But he turns his camera on. He's actually a client. And when he turns his camera on, he's literally like, why are you smiling? He says. And that made me laugh, but it made me feel kind of silly at the same time, because it's like, why am I smiling? Like, I don't know anything about him. He didn't make a joke. It made me feel kind of inauthentic.
And a cuckoo. What am I doing?
And I said, well, I had to recoup. I was like, whoa, I'm just excited to meet you. And he's like, okay, cool. And I'm like, ooh, that was a kind of a weird opening, right? So I guess, is there a dichotomy between authenticness, a dichotomy between playing the actor, like you said, which is so important, and getting yourself in that state, so when the Zoom call does start, you have a smile? Is there a mix between that and also being your real, authentic self?
I think the starting point is being your real authentic self. I wouldn't say there should be any mix, because for most people, just finding yourself and being comfortable. The reason why people don't want to be authentic or be themselves is because of stereotypes and because of what the status quo would say and what would people say about me. And it's all about what perception is. And the reality is, I tell people all the time, start off with you. The core you. So if the core you is mellow, don't try to be an extrovert type of personality. If your personality is more mellow, then with that mellow, what you have to do is find an effective way to communicate. So if we think of leaders out there who are strong and whatever, they communicate effectively, but they are not over the top. And then if you're over the top, then you have to find a way to bring it down. So always start with just being you. And then inside of that, find the effective way to communicate your message, because there's so many different ways, Brandon.
You got a great voice, Daya. Just I love what you just said, and I think it's
Yeah,
awesome to start with
yeah,
you, and it's a really cool. It makes it easy for people to not feel like they have to be somebody else when they start
correct.
the conversation. But just like listening to you, it's very clear to me that you are somebody who has been aware for many, many years of the way that you use your voice, of the way you sound. I saw like in what you sent me, you've done children's books and a bunch of other stuff. Like how does one move into the field of helping others with their voice? Like where did this begin for you?
Good question. Many years ago in a village in
I think that could be the rest of the podcast and people will be happy.
So I remember literally being young, like I said, and always being fascinated by audio, and that was always in my heart. My track really was, I could say, definitely followed by all kinds of things that lined up. So I was involved in sales, and inside of there, I was in sales in a media organization. So right there, I started selling my clients voice ads. And no, I was not trained or anything like that, but I just used my natural ability. Learned from a friend, got some training, ended up working doing sales for a big studio in Trinidad years ago. It was like the top recording studio. All the agencies came there. They discovered my voice. And then I linked up with a guy named Dan O'Day, went to LA and attended a production summit where I met voiceover actors from ABC, NBC, CBS, and stayed in touch with them. And then I met a coach in LA and virtual over that was like 10 years ago. She's been my coach ever since. And the rest is history in terms of voice. So then I recognized, because of all of this, I was like, I need to find a way to help people. A friend of mine said, help me speak better. And I was like, you speak fine. I put together a program for him. And there was always this desire, like if you go to a conference or a meeting and you see an executive giving a speech, and I mean, for the likes of me, they're top executive. Why can't you just get some training? So last year in 2021, we made over $1 million in say. I mean, it's like it brings some energy. I couldn't understand it, and so I always had a passion to help people, executives, anyone, just become better. And since then, Brandon, I did a lot of workshops. I put things together, and I am a student myself. I am always learning, as well as I take information. I learn from my clients too. Like coaching a client, you discover something, I make a note, and I add that to my program. And I love to do creative things to bring people out. I love interaction. It's not about me lecturing to them. And so inside of there was always this passion to see people really uncover the potential of their voice. And that's my tagline: uncover the potential of your voice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. It makes me like want to work with you because I've wanted to actually. There was a time, and fear is what got in the way, by the way. So it's funny you said that,
Really?
where my wife and I went to get vocal training because we wanted to become better singers. And this was probably 8 years ago. And we went to the trainer and she was, very kind, asking us questions, but fear got in the way of us actually doing it. And it makes me think, how would I sing now if I had started those lessons all those years ago?
Right.
And it makes me think, like, let's say I worked with you, and let's say maybe not me. Let's just do a third person. Let's say an executive starts working with you, and they say, Daya, I want you to help me use my voice in a better way, just like your friend reached out and asked you. How do you begin in helping someone to strengthen and improve their voice?
Right. So everyone has a different challenge. I do an assessment, and I would give people something to read. I would give them I would tell them, give me a topic, like talk on a topic off the top of your head, without fumbling, without filler words, and just guide them through that. And so that assessment helps me to see. I give them a pronunciation test. And so that would help me figure out where they're at, even though they think they need help with this and that. And as we progress throughout the coaching, I will begin to identify areas that they need to strengthen, they need to work on, and it really ends up really well in the end.
Gotcha. Is there like one specific thing with the voice? Like I always think about like the Pareto Principle, which is the 20% of actions get 80% of the results. 20% of the salespeople get 80% of the profits. Like, is there a 20% principle with the voice where people listening right now can be sitting in their chair or they're driving and they're listening to this and they're like, well, I kind of want to try something right now. Like, what is the 20% where if we focus on it, it will dramatically help us to improve our performance vocally?
That's a good one because I never thought of one thing that will dramatically improve. But what I can say is like, and I actually thought of it just now, maybe I could try it with you if you're willing.
Oh, I'm willing.
So what I would do is I call this the gas method. And what this helps, this is just part of what would be in my course. And my course is about, just teaching people how to own the room. That's with presentation specifically. So for people who want to do either Zoom presentation or in person, and one aspect of this is called the GAS method that I created. It's an acronym for gather, arrange, and speak. So gather is gathering your thoughts. And because for most times we don't think ahead before we open our mouth to speak. So you want to gather your thoughts and you're doing that all in your head. And then you arrange them in a particular order. So you have just rapid thoughts. It's like brainstorming in your mind, the bullet points on a particular topic, of course, if you're going to speak on something. So right now, choose a topic for me, Brandon, that you want to talk about. Something you like, something you feel passionate about.
Let's talk about guitar.
All right, guitar. So you're going to talk about guitar. Let's throw it in about your experience with using a guitar. So right now, what I want you to do is to gather in your mind without writing anything down. Okay. In your mind, you're going to be thinking about three things, just three things that come to mind about guitar, just three things about you and your guitar, and then hold those three things. Then what you want to do is pull out of those three things the one most important thing that you're going to talk about. So like the strong points. So you have a few and you say, you know what, I want to lead with this, because what we lead with really gives the fuel, the gas, to continue through for the rest of what we want to see. So have you done that? You think about the top thing, and then the others come down the list. And then, of course, the speak is when you open your mouth and being to share. You have to have great mental control, not to get distracted by other thoughts. Stick with the ones in your mind and begin to talk on the topic. Now, inside of that, as you begin to talk, try your best not to have any filler words like Rather, what you should do is pause, hold your mind a bit when you want to gather your thoughts, but don't pause for too long. All right. And try and see if you can push yourself for like 2 minutes. Just literally time yourself if you have a timer or phone or something, and just 2 minutes, speak until the 2 minutes are up. So it's stretching your mind to talk about this topic for 2 minutes.
Okay. I think about the fretboard of a guitar. And when I first started playing the guitar, one of the biggest challenges that I faced was getting the fingerings right on the chords on the guitar itself. And I remember going to lessons, and one of the first lessons that I learned was actually Back in Black by AC/DC. You know that song?
Yeah.
Back in Black, and it's a simple dun 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 dun, just three chords that I could literally teach anybody right now if they wanted to learn that song. And it empowered me because it showed me that I could get my fingers the right way to play these chords. And they're pretty simple chords. Anyone can really do it. And it made me realize all of the different intricacies of the guitar itself, because once you learn how to put your fingers in the right chord position, then you have to figure out how you're going to move your right hand across the strings. So it's kind of like that analogy of, rubbing your head while doing this with your stomach at the same time. You just get better at it, and you just learn, just like you'll get better with these vocal tips that you're giving everybody. And I learned how to strum the guitar. I learned how to place my fingers on the strings. And you learn how to even use the guitar as almost like a drum kit. So you can use your hand in different ways, different strumming patterns to get a different sound. And the more you practice it, the better you get. And it opens up new opportunities to learn different types of songs. You start venturing into different types of guitar strings that you can put on the guitar. You start venturing into the different types of guitars. For me, I started with a Fender guitar, like one that Eric Clapton would have used. And then I moved to an SG, they called it, which is a guitar that Angus Young used in AC/DC. And then I moved to a Les Paul, which is a guitar that Slash from Guns N' Roses was very well known for using. And then I totally ditched electric guitar and I went to acoustic guitar because I loved the peacefulness and the authenticity and the naturalness of an acoustic guitar.
And I think your 2 minutes are up right there.
I
Well, that was
going.
pretty good. So what you did there, what, and I was very good, Brandon, and I didn't get any filler words inside of there, but from a lot of people, it's challenging to stretch and talk about something. Now, you talked about a topic. I cheated a bit. What I do is I give people topics that they've never heard of, so it causes you to think. It causes you to think. But yeah, I still wanted to see how you dove in there. But the issue, as you said, what would help people is practice that, like pull up topics that let people say, give me a topic. So Brandon, you throw a topic to me now. Let's do this for 1 minute because I figure you have limited time. I don't know.
We got plenty of time.
All right. So I'll do the 2 minutes. You throw a topic that I don't know about at me and I'll model this for you.
Okay. The topic that I will throw at you.
Before you give me, what I want to say is that inside of your sharing, what I also tell people is don't just talk about it. You wanna draw in your audience, right? So another challenge is how you start. You always want to start with a strong attention grabber. So think about if you're going on a stage to do a presentation, and I'm just throwing in a little extra here. When you're going on a stage to do a presentation, how do you start? Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brandon, and I'm just going to talk to you about my life using a guitar. You don't have to start there. You can start with a story. You can start with a fact. 70% of all Americans don't like to use a guitar. That's like a fact. It grabs people's attention. And so that's what you want to lead off with. And you want to have strategies inside of there, like the dramatic pause. That causes you to wonder what's happening, right?
Wow.
So there are techniques like that you want to use. So just saying, okay, that's some things that I say, okay, I'll tell people, use a dramatic pause, use an attention grabber. So I'm going to try and do all of that. All right. So give me the topic.
The topic I'm going to give you, and it's kind of cheating because you live in the Caribbean, but ocean life.
Ocean life. And starting, if you think about it like this, you wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and you jump in your car and it only is about 1 hour or 1 hour and a half to reach to the ocean where I live. And you go there and this amazing fresh breeze just hits your face. It's something that you cannot describe. It's amazing. Now, for so many people, they envy this. They think about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I would just love to feel that feeling. All this cold, the mixture of the sun rays beating down on your skin and the smell of the ocean is just undescribable. And that is the life that we want to live. Right in the ocean. Some people set up a tent and sleep overnight. That's right, they do that. Some people just would camp out and put food on the beach and dive into the ocean to just experience it. I'm sure so many of you are just dying to do that depending on where you live. Now, of course, if you're in the States and you live in Florida, yeah, you have some kind of beaches, but still, Caribbean beaches are like the bomb. So I just want to say, if you want to live ocean life, you have to come to the Caribbean. You have to experience things. You have to just live it up to the best. I love it. I love to make a nice event out of it. We bring friends together, and in the Caribbean, we call it liming. Just like your fruit, the lime, you hang out and you lime. Hang out means lime. So we go to the beach and we lime. It's just an amazing experience. And I just want to say to you that if you want to know what it's like to have ocean life, you have to move to the Caribbean. It's an experience you'll never forget.
I want to go. I want to go lime.
So so that's an example of, I started with a description and didn't know what you're going to talk about. All of that is gathering, arrange, and then speak. Wow. So with practice, that's something that would really help people become more effective. And inside of there are techniques. Like I said, start off with a story, a fact, a stat. It grabs the attention. Think it through. I didn't know what I was going to say before you told me. So it's about mentally practicing to be sharp and to be quick and to say what you want to say.
It's funny too, because you did a couple things there that were very powerful. Like when you first began the story itself, because really that was a story. You immediately composed yourself. You got into state immediately because you've trained yourself over 2 decades to do this. But for those who haven't trained themselves in this way, rewind and literally watch what Daya does again. If you're watching the video version, watch what he does. If you're listening, listen to that pause between his normal speaking voice and when he started to tell that story. He paused and he started talking in a much deeper and more rich voice that invites you in. And yours is much better than mine, but even that pause you did there in the center of it, when you were talking about the beach itself and the ocean, the pause to you probably lasted longer in your own mind than it did for us, because when we pause, we think that other people are just waiting endlessly, but for them, it's a split second. For us, as we're giving the pause, it feels like a long time. Pause longer, because to other people, it'll seem like a more natural pause.
I say 3 seconds. Count it in your mind. Pause. 1, 2, 3, and then begin. Because anything shorter than that is just taking a breath. So, yeah.
I love that. I mean, it sounds to me like this course that is launching very, very soon. Again, it might even be out when people are listening. So be sure to check the description link and see if that's the case. What we just did, we did well because we've been doing this for years, right? I specifically learned how to do this when I joined Toastmasters.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Oh, come on, Brandon.
In Toastmasters, that is something we would call a table topic.
I heard
right?
about
Someone
that.
gives us a random.
You use that strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought about it afterwards because, but table topic is talk about a random subject for a minute and a half.
Okay.
And try to avoid using any filler words. But this is what you find. Someone comes in to Toastmasters. They're afraid to do this. They're worried about doing this. But once they do it, they realize it's not so bad. And they start to like it even more. And you'll find those listening right now, if you're someone who says, I really want to get better at this thing, I bet you've never really practiced alone in a room and maybe just had like a random internet generator give you a topic. I bet that, number one, you're better than you think you are. And number two, you don't have any idea how quickly you can improve in this once you just begin practicing and doing it.
I wanted to say as well that inside of the course, I build in the exercises with questions so people can actually click on videos that will prompt up questions at the topics that they didn't know, and a timer is built into it. So they actually get to practice in the course as well. So it's that cool.
It sounds really cool. I'm excited to go through the course. So your course name is How to Own the Room. Powerful name, even more powerful graphic that people will check out when they go to the link. Tell us a bit about what we can expect when we go through How to Own the Room.
What you can expect is taking you on a journey of self-discovery, because what I focus on really is more about self and about you and about uncovering things that you never really thought you had a challenge with. So that's the starting point. The starting point is not about, well, this technique and this is what I do, like we were discussing this morning. It has to start with confronting emotion, confronting fears, and then really getting to a place where, okay, I've overcome this. Now let me use some tools that I can apply. And it's a workbook that's not heavy. It's easy for everyone, but there will be a workbook accompanied for each module. And it's really very short. It's 3 modules. Everything is about 45 minutes in total. And it really takes people through step by step. You can go at your own pace, but at the end of it, what you can expect is to be equipped with some tools and training that would allow you to stand with more confidence inside of a room, to stand and articulate and express yourself if you apply the tools and the methods, because some people just want to rush through something. You have to engage. That's the one thing I'd say. Engage with it. Really do the exercises that are being highlighted, and then you would find the results and the change. And it will be challenging. I'm telling you, it will be emotionally challenging. So, like, one part of the course, I give a description, Brandon, if I may, of picturing a chest, like one of those chests that you see in one of the movies, up in an attic that has been hidden by parents and families for a long time. And you walk up, so this is a chest, but this chest belongs to you. And as you open that chest slowly, the chest has like about different compartments all to it, like other little boxes. Picture that, like small boxes that are covered down inside of this chest. As you open it, you see it. Those boxes represent emotions. And each of them would be some that you've freely opened and uncover. But when you lift up one of them, way down to the bottom, there's another box, has cobweb and dust over it. And that's an emotion that you never wanted to explore, but you know what it is. So I send you to go to pick up that box, dust it off, open it up. And you write that down in your workbook. What is that emotion that you're fearful of really going after? Is it love? Is it anger? What is the emotion? And tap into that and say, I will not be afraid of this emotion anymore.
Wow. I did not expect that.
So
I
that's
want
just
to go
part of
through
it.
this right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't re-listen to other episodes. Like there's been, everyone talks about what they're working on at the end. This is something that I am truly excited to personally go through, because I know that I'll take at least one thing from this. Like even what you just gave me with that random topic, and how instead, after you said start with the story, I should have started with the story, right? I started with, one of the first things I thought about with guitar, which kind of a story, but it's boring compared to setting the stage. But it just goes to show how much more impactful can we be just by tweaking one or two things. Yeah. And this isn't a course that you go through and you learn a skill and then the platform changes. Like you're not learning like how to run a Facebook ad or how to be effective on LinkedIn. You're learning how to own the room. And no matter how long you live, no matter what career you're in, what step in that career you're in, this is something that you're going to continue to use for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just gets better and better.
Yes. 100%. Now, this course, How to Own the Room, it's launching very soon, guys. The link is in the description. I'd click it to see if the course has launched, because it will be in there. It's a link tree where you'll see where you can follow Daya, where you can connect with him. And if you are someone who wants that one-on-one support, connect with Daya on LinkedIn, shoot him a message, because some people would rather just go right to the source than go through a do-it-yourself course. Like I'm that kind of person too, where if I want to improve somewhere, like if you're an executive listening, if you're someone who relies on their voice to deliver a message to your team or whatever it might be, reach out to Daya and start that conversation now. Awesome. Daya, at this point in your journey, and this is my final question for you, what is your mission at this stage in your life, and what are you looking to accomplish next?
That's such a good question, Brandon. Never thought of it. So many things. There's a list. Next, like immediately next, of course, is the course. And then after that, I'm working with a friend of mine. She's really awesome. Animation project. So we voiced it. It's like a modern version of the Three Little Pigs. And so I'm the voice of the narrator and the wolf, and she plays all the pigs. And we are, and it's really fun. We bring in modern issues, influencer, social media. Everything is like the pigs are gamers. One is a do-it-yourselfer. Next one is an influencer, and the wolf is trying to destroy their lives. So it's really a fun project. and we're trying to get some people on board to animate this project. So that's the next focus. Where it goes, we don't know. We may just probably build our own site and have these things posted. But while I'm a coach, I'm also both by day, not by day and by night, but both by day, I'm a coach and a voice actor. So that's something that people can look out for as well. But that's going to come after.
You're a coach, but you also are doing what you coach, which is super cool to see that. It's not just something that you teach, but don't practice and do, which means you're only going to get better, and you're in the trenches doing this day by day. And I love that mission, because that sounds like something that the Three Little Pigs, that parody, in a sense, that incorporates one of the things, like that sounds very powerful. Like that itself is going to make a huge difference also. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. If you're an animator out there, reach out to Daya too. I'm sure they could use you for that. You never know. Who knows what skills. But Daya, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And thank you for sharing these tips that will help us to own the room.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. It was fun.
You got to click the link in the description, guys, and check to see if How to Own the Room is available, because this course is going to help you for the rest of your life. It's not just some short-term thing. It's going to help you to speak better. It's going to help you to use your words better. It's going to help you to use the natural instrument that you were given at birth, which is your voice. It's going to help you to use it better and more effectively. And it helps you personally too, because what's your spouse going to think when you start walking through the door and you're sounding like Fabio, right? It's going to make a difference everywhere in your life. And click the link so you can check out How to Own the Room by Daya Ottley. I hope you took a ton of value away from this, even through those little exercises that we did, that you can begin applying in your life right now, that you can begin practicing. And if you did find value, share this show with just one person who could use this information as well. Someone in business, or someone who just wants to get better with this thing that we use every day called the voice. Thank you so much for watching. Until we talk again next time, continue to be better.